Hello and welcome to the video. This is a quick look at the latest on the Pixhawk family from HolyBro, the Pixhawk 5X. Now, I am a fan of the Pixhawk technology from HolyBro. It tends to be the one that I'll use if I'm not using one of the kind of official Pixhawk Cube flight controllers. Now, I've done a couple of series showing you how to use this technology with RD Pilot, one going into a fixed wing and another going into a multi-rotor, and I'll link those down below. But this is the latest version based on the Pixhawk Fmu V5X Open Standard and the Autopilot Bus Standard. So it has a lot of cool things in here. Now, this kind of stuff isn't tended to be aimed at the FPV community and people making small multi-rotors. This kind of stuff tends to be used by professional builders, people who are building rigs in kind of education and development environments. And in fact, we looked at the X500 V2 frame, which is very much aimed at that kind of audience as well. So this is a nice companion flight controller and telemetry radio system to go with it. Inside the Pixhawk 5X, it's a modular flight system, so it has separated IMUs, FMUs, and there's lots of redundancy in here. And the way that the PX4 stuff works, it'll kind of switch across to one of the redundant sensors if something screwy happens with one of the primary sensors going on, to give you a little bit more redundancy actually inside the unit. As I take the top off here, you'll notice that it looks very similar to the Pixhawk Cube, but it's a much lower profile. So the redundancy in here, it has 3 IMU sensors, it has 2 barometers or separate buses, so that even if you have a bus hiccup, that doesn't take out all your sensors, and it allows parallel and continuous operation even in the event of a hardware failure. So it's got that kind of redundancy stuff all built in. Newly designed vibration isolation system in here as well. That's very handy. That filters out some of the high frequency vibration and reduces some of the noise, which makes things easier to tune and gives you smoother flying. There's an Ethernet interface for high-speed mission computer integration on here, believe it or not. Automated sensor calibration. The IMUs are temperature controlled, just like the main Pixhawk stuff is, with onboard heating resistors, making sure that even if you're flying in colder conditions, the temperature drift that you get with IMUs isn't a problem. In the kit, there's also the Pixhawk 4 GPS module. This is one that I looked at with the 4. I do like the way that everything is clearly labelled on this, on the carrier board, and everything clicks in, so it's really simple to put together. The Fmu processor inside the Pixhawk is an STM32F765, massive bag of all the cables you're going to need. So if you want to add extra things later on, and I'm going to use this actually to make some extra videos about how to add things like CRSF and others. We have a stalk for the GPS inside the kit, and then an extra couple of bits. The power module is this thing here, and that's going to go in between the power distribution board and the battery. Quite stiff cables for this, and that also then powers the Pixhawk 5 as well as provides information on current and voltage from your flight battery. Going back to the Pixhawk again, it's a 2 megabytes of memory with 512k of RAM, and the final piece in the kit is this thing here. This is a power distribution board. This looks very similar to the one that was actually included in the kit with the HolyBro X500 V2 frame. And the way it works is you just plug the power distribution board into the power module, and then that goes into the battery, and there's a cable that goes into the power connector on the Pixhawk, and everything's done. Now, the manual that comes in the box is very basic. It does give you all the pinouts, which is incredibly handy when you're adding sensors and other pieces on here, and is a perfect reference if you are building something a bit wacky. However, going on the website, it is very good, and the way everything is connected is very clearly laid out. Now, this is a great companion to that frame that I talked about a couple of times, and actually has the spaces on top for you to screw it home. Although I always mount these kinds of things with double-sided foam tape, that again helps dampen a little bit of the vibration isolation. Interfaces on the flight controller, 16 PWM servo outputs. RC input for a Spectrum and DSM, and dedicated input for PPM and S-Bus, although with the latest versions of things like ArduPilot, it'll also support CRSF, which is very nice and going to be good for Tracer, Crossfire and things like ELRS. 4 general purpose serial ports, 3 with full flow control, 1 with a separate 1 amp current, and 1 with I2C with an additional GPIO line, 2 GPS ports, so you can actually have 2 GPSs plugged into this thing at the same time, 1 Ethernet port, 1 I2C port, and 1 SPI bus on here as well. Also CAN buses for the CAN bus peripherals that are starting to become more prevalent in the Pixhawk land, and 2 power input ports with SM bus, so you can have redundant power on here if you really wanted to as well. Other things to talk about then is the telemetry radios. Again, I've done loads of videos on these telemetry radios, and it's nice to have some decent ones that are actually made by a vendor that's going to stand by their product. I've used all kinds of things from eBay and all kinds of rubbish in the past, and they are tricky to get working. Now these are 2 little identical modules. 433 megahertz is this sample I've got here, 100 milliwatts power. The underneath of here is then all of the cables that you're going to need. Let me just see if I can get this antenna out. There we go. Love the fact that they've actually printed on what the antenna is tuned for, and also got the HolyBro logo as well. I love that, because once you're on the table and you start taking these antennas apart, you can lose which is which when you're putting it all back together. Connectors on the bottom for USB to plug into your ground station, and also another set of cables if you want to plug these into your Pixhawk. And what the telemetry radios do is just send the telemetry back down to your ground station, but you can also use it to actually control and fly the model by having things like a USB joystick plugged into the ground station. Again, both of them have both ports, so you can use them either or. These are a really cute little way and kind of plug and play to work with the Pixhawk systems. So now I've got both of these, I'm definitely thinking of actually building out on top of the X500 V2 frame. I'm going to put the Pixhawk on top and we'll flash it and set it up. I'll probably wait for full official ArduPilot support, so I can put 4.2 or 4.21 on it, and that'll also give me a great platform to do some testing, to test how you set up things like the CRSF protocol and which port you use, how you wire that all up, and also connect up things like the DJI HD system, which is also supported in ArduPilot as well, and show how to do that. Again, links down below to all of this stuff, but if you are a student and you're interested in building your own setup with a Pixhawk flight controller, this is one that you should be looking at when you're looking at things like the Cube, Durandal, Pixhawk 4, as well as this. Thank you for spending your time today watching that video. You can find me in all the usual places on social media, and if you're trying to learn about a subject, then check out the playlist. All of my videos are organized into easy to follow playlists that, if you're trying to learn a topic, will take you from the basics right the way through to some pretty advanced stuff.